What is something society expect men to put up with when we really shouldn't have to? Always being the emotional rock without getting the same support. Having to be sly about unsticking our balls from our thigh on a hot day. It is what it is, I'll unstick without shame. Women and bad behavior from them. The lack of leniency in office clothing. Outside, shirt and trousers, please. Other people's blind, baseless assumptions. Pseudo-infidelity, like girls' night out to the club and bikini pics on Instagram. To be emotionless. You can't be sad, cry, or complain. Even some male influencers like Andrew Tate encourage this but give no reasons why or how it is good for men to do this. Being held to a high standard. Expected to be tough, all the baggage for others. Anti-male hatred, discrimination, and ridicule. We tried to be nice, now it's time to stand our ground and develop strong, healthy, caring, respectful, accountable, and trustworthy men. What's a civilization-ending scenario that most people don't know about? Unexpected gamma-ray burst from space. Everything digital, fried instantly. Solar flares. With how the world runs on digital electronics, a really big solar flare would fuck shit up. If humans contracted chronic wasting disease, based on our response to COVID, bird fluing could bring down societies and governments. Everyone talks about nuclear weapons, but nobody seems to talk about weaponizing imps, which could also bring the end to civilization. An unexpected nova from a nearby star. A pandemic that's more than marginally world got a collective F for the way it handled COVID. A transmissible virus with even a 5. Global war tensions with Russia haven't exactly cooled off since the asteroid Apophis, which will pass between the moon and the Earth as it passes us with a 1 in 7 chance to get trapped in Earth's gravity and killing pretty much everything about 7 years later. People who liked Elon Musk but no longer do. What was the turning point? The self-proclaimed free speech absolutist indulging Turkish President Erdogan's request that his opposition be throttled on Twitter. A free speech absolutist would have told Erdogan to kindly fuck off. When he started naming his children after Wi-Fi passwords. The first time I realized there's something wrong with him was when he accused one of the mine divers of being a pedophile because he was mad at him. All downhill from there. Just his overall nonsense. He's a billionaire after all. He used to be a major nerd who went on stage showing off the cool shit he was building. This is why so many tech heads fell in love with. He's just turned into another Hollywood celebrity and the ego went to his head. He's nowhere near that same nervous nerd he used to be. He's just a troll now. Everything I said when this exact question was posted 7 days ago. What have you devoted countless hours to that now seems futile? Sorting and organizing my collection. When I was a kid, I memorized multiplication tables all the way to acts because they said I wouldn't have a calculator in my pocket. Working and contributing to a social security system I will never see. My job. I worked at it for 35 years until the day my boss told me today, "Is your last day working here?" He told me that it wasn't a problem with my performance, that it was a business decision to separate 300 people that day. Knew I wasn't bitter. Work in general. Trying to ignore the bullshit, then trying to figure out the bullshit, then trying to fight the bullshit, then trying to cooperate with the bullshit. Being a decent, hard-working employee for a large multinational corporation. I got a BS in biochemistry. Then drove a forklift for 14 years. Now I'm an electrician. Playing video games excessively. What life-changing item can you buy for $100? Sunscreen. Skin cancer is no joke. A lifetime supply of sunscreen law. 1,000 polio vaccines. Foam had the same one for 10 years and it's definitely helped. Satisfyer Pro 2. Generation 3. Air fryer, a decent coffee machine. Those trips to the cafe sure build up into quite the spending habit. Go vintage hunting, I'm sure you can find some really cool stuff for. Gun. I wonder why no one mentioned condoms yet. Name change. Pato icicles. As an American, that cheap $30 Bite It attachment has made me feel grossed out by other people who don't have him now. Bread knife. A comfy pair of shoes. A fitness app. A marriage certificate. Crack cocaine. Running shoes. Bite It is always the answer to this question. Face moisturizer. A pair of gymnastic rings, 30–50 bucks. There is no other variation other than goodbye. No one wishes you a bad bye or great bye. Never too late to start. I say bad bye, sir. No one says bad morning or bad afternoon either. It's a contraction of God bye with ye, so I suppose we could sataby or buttaby. Just bye can be neutral. Are you saying there's a good high or a bad high? Good by one comma changes the mood. Of course there is, it's just pronounced differently than you'd expect. What we are used to hearing in English is goodbye, so you would think the opposite would be bad bye, but it's actually pronounced fuck off. English is tricky like that. This is because of its origin. It's a contraction of the phrase God be, with ye God be w ye God be God we goodbye. Man, I came here to see people explaining etymology. Disappointing. By Felicia is a bad bye. Good fucking by Matt Skyba. By bitch is a pretty bad bye. But there is a best bye. Bye. What is actually healthy but people think is not. Fat, as in the macronutrient, I've heard so many people believe that fat makes you fat. Boredom. Having boundaries in some families' culture, it's not healthy. Frozen fruits and vegetables. They actually preserve all the nutrients, and they are always picked when they are in season. Microwave. Many people think it's harmful. Masturbation. Despite what those who are terminally online may think. Going outside in the sun will in fact not kill you and is actually recommended by all medical professionals to do daily. Animal fat. Salt. I mean, obviously not to the extent a lot of people use it, but salt-free diets can be just as unhealthy too. Salt and sodium is a vital nutrient. There is a balance. Real butter. Fasting. Eggs. Not telling everything to your partner. How can I make life better for my fiancé who works 100 hours a week and is burnt out? I'm sorry, but if you work 100 hours a week, you've failed him, ho. He's unhappy, unhealthy, has no time, and cannot make any sort of social plans. There is nothing you can do other than communicate. He needs to look at his life and get a grip. Enjoy the early retirement when the stress got him and works himself to death. I mean it. If he isn't saving lives, no job is worth working 24/7. What's the point of all his efforts if he's miserable or dead? He seriously needs to re-evaluate his priorities in life. Sounds like he values his work more than he does his health, family, friends. What is his long-term goal? Row earns so much. What job requires 100 hours a week? No human can work that hard. If industry regularly works 100 hours in a week. If you are not frequent airplane traveler and someone asks you to switch your window seat for their kid, what would you do? Say, depends on whether I paid extra for that seat and what seat I was trading for. I'll swap a window for an aisle, but I'm not sitting in the middle. We all know what that whole thing is. If you want to sit next to someone by a guaranteed are picking cheaper, the airline picks where you sit tickets under that assumption that they will be able to bully people into they aren't bullying them. They are just pestering them, guilt tripping them. Isn't the retort you think it is, people? I don't want investigators to be confused if we all end up charred corpses and all they have to go by is the original seating chart. You never know. Wink. I plan to fly. I will book the flight well in advance and carefully book my seat, window, aisle or emergency aisle. If there's an extra fee, I'll pay it. Who want to trade seats to a sit next to someone or B to have more legroom can pound sand. Your problem is not my problem. Learn to plan better. Most find it easier to be vulnerable with a therapist than with their romantic partner. Sort of the whole idea of they being a professional. Well, yeah, my therapist isn't gonna tickle my feet. Right, because these are two distinct relationships. A therapist is similar to a doctor-patient relationship. They're bound to a code of ethics, and if they cross boundaries, they can be reported and lose their license. For example, if you sleep with your crush, it could either end in a relationship. If your therapist tries this, they could wind up in jail, as they should. I have no issue being open and vulnerable with my partner, and neither do they with me. We're just not trained professionals and aren't as good at asking the right things to help each other. We do support each other as good as we possibly can, but a third, unaffiliated S-take can be necessary sometimes. Attractive nurses can't get an accurate heart rate. Lol, I get so stressed. When traveling to my doctor's appointments, I told them they've never seen my actual normal blood pressure. I don't think they get an accurate measurement from me either way. That thing squeezing my arm always freaks me out. When you are really sick, the sight of an attractive person does little to excite you, believe me. Last time I was at the doctor's, my anxiety was so bad that my heart rate spiked, and they did an immediate ick. Everything was normal. I'm only late April 11th, 2024. They didn't bill anything additional to my insurance for the ick. They were just concerned. The heart rate reading would be accurate, but perhaps adjustment parameters should be considered. If she's a 10, adjust down by 20. Measurement anxiety is factored in. A doc told me that. No, he wasn't attractive. And doctors and dentists' offices only seem to hire the attractive ones too. What is something happening? Getting newer generations addicted to the internet at such a young age. Overfishing and blowing through the groundwater. Legalized sports gambling. Artificial intelligence. All the companies are in a race right now to produce the best AI without asking if it's a good idea. Climate change people are not understanding how terrifyingly its effects are gonna be on everyone. Trump getting elected again. Debasement of the UST. I haven't weeded the garden in months. The socially engineered manufactured divide between the masculine and feminine men and women taking place in many countries like America through the use of technology like social media and television. Bullying your staff, Joe. Human trafficking. A lot. Pissing off the santee. Driving everywhere.